Before we dive into this episode, take a breath. Wherever you are, however you're feeling, you made it here, and I'm glad you did. This episode isn't about fixing your life or forcing a smile. It's about letting go of the pressure to be happy all the time. I used to chase happiness for years and years in my younger 20s and as a teen, and all it did was leave me feeling more disconnected, more exhausted, and more unsure of myself. So about 10 years ago, I stopped. And in this stillness, I found something else. Joy. It's quieter, but it's deeper. So today, I want to talk about why I stopped chasing happiness and what happened when I started to listen to something more honest. Welcome to So I Was Told, the podcast where honesty meets humanity. I'm your host, Curbs, walking contradiction in the best way. And every week, we peel back the filters and get real about mental health, identity, community, and everything in between. Whether you're here to feel seen, heard, or just a little less alone, you've landed in the right place. We keep it raw, reflective, and occasionally ridiculous because healing doesn't have to be heavy all the time. So grab your coffee, your comfort drink, or just a quiet moment, and let's get into it. The last 6 weeks of my life have been mental hell. I've recently been diagnosed with PTSD, stemming from childhood trauma that related to my parents' alcoholism. And that has caused me to have insane panic attacks. And as a result, has really just caused a lot of bad things to just happen to me. I don't even know how to explain it. Bottom line is, I'm not okay. I feel just like I did when I got divorced 4 years ago, if not worse at times. I contemplated death more in a single night than I have in the past year or years even. I've been really scared for myself because I just want to feel safe and my nervous system doesn't feel safe. I haven't been eating much. I have no interest in doing the things that I love. And when I'm not at work, I'm sleeping for hours and hours. But in all this, as I am slowly beginning the path to healing and into this next chapter of my life, I was reminded of this belief that I've carried for maybe 12 years now, a belief that somehow got lost in a lot of the life that I was experiencing in the last 3 years. And it's that happiness is fleeting, but joy is this thing that has roots. And these roots, when tended to, this joy, when tended to, grows deep in the garden of our hearts. And so I want to explore that today. Not as a coach or an expert, this isn't a TED Talk, whatever, but as someone trying to feel real again. Someone desperately trying to ground themselves in a whole new reality once again, with my face forward, still learning, never giving up, still healing. So happiness. What is happiness? In my opinion, happiness is reactive. It's triggered by external events, right? Imagine you get 100 new followers in one day. You'd probably feel really happy. Like, whoa, a post I made, got seen by a bunch of people. Imagine getting, it gets over 1,000 likes, 10,000 likes, 20,000 likes, 50,000 likes. People start following you. Boom, 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 boom. And that high you feel, that's happiness. But then imagine the next day, you lose half of those followers because you posted something that maybe challenged the status quo or just was not what those brand new people were expecting. And so they unfollowed. And now suddenly, you're doubting yourself and you don't feel happy. You feel insecure. Why is this bothering me so much? Or what about that high from a text when someone says, I miss you? And then the crash you feel when they don't follow up or ghost you? What about a Friday night that feels eclectic? Great conversation, good laughs, until you're walking home and the silence hits harder than the happy cheers and tones you were just experiencing. Maybe you're overthinking the way you laughed in a moment, or something you said, or the way somebody got a little bothered for a second. You see, to me, happiness is like caffeine. It hits fast, but it doesn't last. In that crash, that shit can feel like whiplash in a moment. your monotony can be shattered. In a moment, that high of life could be ruined by a single phone call, by a single text, by a single act, confession, secrets untold, whatever, whisper in the ear, confrontation, accident. In a moment, that happiness is gone. But see, to me, joy is this quiet but ever steady feeling that sort of grows deep into the garden of our hearts. It doesn't depend on circumstances. Because if we're tending to our gardens, to our mental gardens, if we're learning how to self-affirm, how to ground ourselves, if we have hope in something higher than our own self, a sense of purpose, a sense of presence, then joy becomes rooted in that self-trust. Joy becomes rooted in that purpose and that presence. Think about this, that first bite of real food after days of not eating. Maybe you've been through days or a week of depression and you've had no appetite until suddenly one day you wake up and you take that bite of real food and then begin to realize that your body still wants to heal. Or maybe you're laying in bed and your heart feels heavy, but you're watching your cat sleep and you feel a little less alone. Maybe a moment during a sad playlist when one line in that song hits and instead of crying harder, you feel seen. You see, joy is the feeling that tells you you're still here. You're still capable of feeling something even now. And I love that. I love that about this steady, ever-growing presence in our minds when we're going through it, when we have the darkest night of our soul. Joy isn't this loud burst of music. It doesn't perform for a crowd. It just holds space while you fall apart. Joy tells me this pain hurts. It hurts so much. And in this suffering, this mental burden, I know there's going to be a day that I wake up and I feel brand new. I feel light. I feel hungry. I feel myself. Maybe that's not one day. Maybe it's a little bit every day, a single moment at a time. Nurturing joy in the midst of our suffering is what we should be focusing on instead of trying to capture happiness. You see, I think we've been sold happiness as a goal in our consumeristic society, and it's a trap. We scroll through Instagram and we see people soft life their way through curated aesthetics while you're here surviving on toast and intrusive thoughts. The toxic positivity of people telling you, just smile more when you're clearly unraveling. But I want you to know that realizing that healing doesn't always feel good, and sometimes not feeling okay is a sign that you're growing. Move your eyes off of the screen. Get your mental eyes away from this idea of perfection, of that white picket fence, of that person that's never going to hurt you, of that perfect life, that perfect car, that perfect child, that perfect spouse, partner, whatever. You see, happiness is marketable, but joy is messy. And that's why it's real. You're not broken for being sad. You're broken when you pretend not to be. So how do we cultivate joy, right? Now we know happiness is fleeting. Joy is what's going to sustain us, I think. It's kind of a concept that's, I can understand that it's a concept that can be hard to grasp. But if joy is real and it's ever present, even in these intense moments of suffering, when life feels heavy, how is it that even the smallest glimmer of joy can make a difference in our life? So let's talk about how to explore gentle, low effort practices in order to help you feel grounded and rediscover those little moments of happiness. I have 5 helpful tips for you that are a blend of psychology and some reflective habits, simple things that you can do even when you feel overwhelmed. Number 1, mindful moments. And that is to find calm in the present. Take a minute to pause and breathe. Mindfulness is about giving your full attention to right now. For example, noticing the warmth of your coffee mug or the sound of your breath. Maybe sitting in a coffee shop and letting your mind sort of detach to just hear the white noise of conversation. Even a brief, mindful pause can ease stress and create a new sense of calm. Research shows that practicing mindfulness often helps lower anxiety and can train our brains to not get stuck in negative loops. In other words, a 1 minute breathing break or a short meditation, or if you're spiritual, prayer, is like a mini reset for your mind. It brings you back to right here and right now, which is often much safer and kinder than the storm that you are experiencing in your head. Here's the next tip, number 2. I like the name for this one. It's joy snacks. That is, savoring the small stuff. This section is pulled from an article that was featured on the Washington Post. The idea of joy snacks is essentially to give yourself permission to savor the little good things. This could be the taste of a favorite snack, the feeling of sun on your face, or a quiet moment at the end of your day when you come home from work. By mindfully tuning into pleasant everyday experiences, we can transform a mundane moment into something meaningful and joyful. Psychologists call these little delights joy snacks, and research shows that finding and savoring these nuggets of joy each day can steadily build a more positive and meaningful life. For example, when you get into bed, pause for a few seconds to enjoy the coziness of your blankets. Move your feet around and feel the different temperature changes. When you laugh at a hilarious meme, notice how it feels. These moments may seem tiny, but lingering on them can actually help stretch out that joy. And over time, you're actually training your brain to notice good things more easily. It's that resilience that begins to build in your brain. But it isn't just during the hardest moments of our life, it has to be in our everyday. Number 3, from the same article that I was referencing, and by the way, I'll have all of these sources in the show notes in the podcast description wherever you're listening from. Number 3 is a dose of gratitude. When you're emotionally drained, gratitude can feel out of reach, but it can be incredibly healing in small doses. So you could try writing down one thing you're thankful for each day, no matter how small. Like, my tea was amazing this morning, or the sky at my break looked beautiful. You see, studies have found that writing down things you feel grateful for can improve your mood and increase feelings of joy over time. Again, deepening those roots in the garden of our hearts. You see, gratitude and joy, it might be easier to see joy in relation to gratitude, because oftentimes gratitude and joy tend to reinforce each other in this sort of cycle of virtue. As one psychology study puts it, the more you practice noticing gratitude, the more joy you cultivate, and vice versa. This doesn't mean ignoring the hard stuff, it just means also giving a little spotlight to what's not wrong. Oftentimes, we scroll through our feeds only to see what's wrong. And rightfully so, there is a lot wrong, and many of us choose to turn a blind eye to. But it can be overdone, believe it or not. Oftentimes, whenever anybody has any news to share or something they want to talk about, maybe you're at work, you're at school, whenever you get into that next period or that next shift, usually what the conversation starter is between you and your peers is something bad. It's oftentimes something neutral or negative leaning or just straight out negative. So I think we need to give a little more spotlight to the things that are not wrong in our life. And that can be personal. Maybe you even thank yourself for getting through another day. Maybe you stand in the shower, sit in the bathtub, brush your teeth, and just think to yourself, I can't believe I made it through today. I did it. Another day. You see, in tough seasons, celebrating small blessings can remind you that not everything is bleak. And that itself can spark a bit of lightness in your heart. My dose of gratitude for today, I have to think about it for a second. My dose of gratitude for today, from today, is receiving a text from a friend. And it was really encouraging, really validating. And for a little bit after that, I felt pretty good. Could be as simple as that. Let's go to number 4. Gentle nature breaks. Love this one. Stepping outside or glimpsing a bit of nature can be surprisingly smoothing. If you feel burned out, you should try sitting on your porch, eat dinner outside, walk slowly around your block if it's safe. Or you could even crack open a window and listen to the birds for a minute, turn off the TV, just kind of hear the sound of suburban nature. You see, nature exposure actually has real scientific benefits. According to some research you can read at health.harvard.edu, even 20 minutes in a green space can significantly lower your stress hormones. That could be houseplants or just the sight of green grass sitting in your yard. Nature is a powerful source of what we just talked about in number 3, joy snacks, right? Sitting in the sunlight is definitely a way to incorporate joy snacking. These moments tend to evoke awe and lift our spirits. In one study, people who watched just a 2-minute clip of a nature documentary felt more appreciation and meaning in their day. So as if it wasn't already hard to, immerse yourself in nature, science says that even watching a 2-minute nature clip in a documentary, or maybe you're just watching somebody walk silently in a forest or something, even watching that can make you feel more appreciation and meaning. Isn't that crazy? Our brains are literally hardwired to feel at peace when we look at nature, not these concrete jungles. Nature, where we came from, where we belong, where life is nurtured. You don't need to go camping for 7 days. You don't need to to go to Zion or Yosemite. You don't need to go on this grand backpacking trek. Simply standing outside or noticing the breeze, how they sound through the trees, or seeing how fast the clouds are moving above your head. Over time, those mini nature breaks are going to help you feel more refreshed and resilient. They're going to help you ground yourself in the moments of your suffering, where happiness is far to be found. You've heard the saying, right? Wake up and smell the roses or smell the coffee. I think there's another saying that kind of goes like, take time to smell the roses. Actually take time to smell them and think, this is how a rose smells. Literally. A small moment of appreciating something like a rose or the night sky can reconnect you with this sense of peace and wonder. It's been my favorite way whenever I'm really, really struggling to go outside and look at the flowers that I've planted. I find so much inspiration in flowers. I love flowers so much. So let's get back into cultivating that sense of peace and wonder by respecting the world in which we live in. I said I had 5 points. I actually have 6, so forgive me for misremembering. Let's go to the second to last point, number 5, creative expression. That is any form of art as a form of self-care. Engaging in your creative side in any low pressure way. I think a good way to do this is probably like an adult coloring book or any coloring book. There's no stakes. That coloring book's not going to get posted to Instagram unless you want it to. Nobody's watching. You don't have to color perfectly. Just color however you want to color it. Any low pressure creative act is a great way to cultivate joy and to release a little bit of tension from your shoulders. And it's cool because you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to produce anything perfect. You just let yourself play and express. Remember how fun that was when we were kids? That's because we were masters at playing and expressing, and then we lost that somewhere as we got older. Doodle aimlessly. I love to just draw in abstract. Knit a simple pattern if you can knit. Or one thing that I've been doing, you've probably noticed, is writing poems in a journal. Sing along to a song that you know is going to make you happy. Right? If our heart represents these emotions that is just, they're generating in this engine of a heart, sadness, grief, anger, sadness, grief, anger, sadness, grief, anger. What creative activities do, they vent the immensity of those emotions outward and into something tangible that you now have rule over. I love art. I love making posts on Instagram. I love writing. All of this is probably keeping me the most sane because what I'm doing is I'm getting my emotions and I'm making them tangible so that I can see, okay, I just did that. I just made this. I am not my emotions. My emotions serve me. So when you're feeling empty or numb, create something. No matter how small or stupid it is, just be gentle with yourself and let yourself feel a little more alive. Let it pull you into a moment and give your mind this positive focus. So after this, if you're not driving or you're not at work or whatever, after you're done listening to this podcast, go and scribble or hum a song or bake something. Oh my gosh, baking is creative. Cook something. Be creative. Color outside the lines. And think of it as your inner child playing again, not just working or surviving. The point is to enjoy the process of creativity in our life. And lastly, this one's a little super practical and might be uncomfortable for some people, but number 6 is tiny acts of kindness and connection. You see, joy has a contagious way of coming back around. Call it karma, call it spiritual energy, whatever. Doing something kind for someone else or reaching out to a fellow human for human connection can lift your spirit as much as theirs. You ever hang out with a friend and you guys, you think like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about today. And you guys just end up talking about something and you talk about it for hours. It's so stimulating in your mind. You know what I mean? It lifts your spirit. It waters the garden of your heart. It doesn't require a lot of energy. You can keep it small and doable. You can send something funny, you can send a funny text, funny meme, or you can compliment a coworker on something that you appreciate about them. Hey, I love what you're wearing today. I love that shirt. Or, like last week on that project, dude, you did really good. I just wanted to tell you. Maybe if you have a little extra cash, you pay for somebody's coffee, or you Venmo your friend $7. Hey, I'm thankful for you. Here's $7. Buy yourself a coffee. That's an awesome way to show appreciation, to have a connection with somebody that isn't you, that is their own entity. These micro acts of kindness and connection create this warm glow inside. It's like the sun that radiates in your heart. That's the sun that's giving the flowers in the garden of your heart energy to grow. Human connection, acts of kindness. Research shows that small acts of kindness not only brighten another person's day, but also boost your own happiness. One large study of over 70,000 people found that doing daily micro acts of joy, like kindness or moments of connection, like we just talked about, led to about 25% increase in people's emotional well-being after just 1 week. And what's crazy is that even more than that, these people felt less stressed and more optimistic, and the relationships that they had with those friends felt stronger. Science is basically confirming what we intuitively feel when we share goodness, when we receive goodness. Literally, that's joy. And the peak of those moments is what happiness is. Do you see where we're getting at now? Do you see the difference now? Happiness is the peak of those experiences, but joy is the foundation in which those experiences are made memorable, are made real in our reality. So if you're feeling down, try doing something nice, no matter how small, for somebody you know, for a friend, for your parents, or maybe even for your future self. You could leave a thank you note to yourself right by the doors before you leave in the morning so that you can read it and be like, past you, just like hyping you up. Like, man, thank you for getting up today. You look great. You survived another day. We're going to do it again. It's okay to talk to yourself in that way. It's not crazy. You were literally speaking life into your life, your own life, like I just talked about in the recent episode about speaking life. You matter. Other people matter. And so we should value connection. I hope you take all, if not one of these 6 tips and really seriously think about incorporating them into your life. But also know that none of these tips are a magic fix. They're not going to make your joy grow exponentially overnight so that you could overcome your grief or your suffering tomorrow or 2 days or a week. It's a practice, it's a discipline, and you don't have to do them all at once. But the idea is to gently weave those small moments of joy into your day like tiny threads. Think of these acts as not just the sun growing these flowers, but also an act of scattering seeds. Because maybe you forgot how to feel joyful or what happiness is. Maybe you forgot what it felt like to be at peace. What is that? Let your mind seed these seeds of joy and resilience and discipline and hope. It's not about forcing yourself to be happy, because happiness is fleeting. It's about allowing yourself these little doses of joy and comfort so that you can be patient and kind to yourself. So that in these moments, like I feel right now, these dark seasons where it hurts so much, even a faint glimmer of joy, a calm breath, a shared smile, or a moment of beauty has been enough to get me through the day and to remind myself that light still exists and it will grow brighter.